I'm Jon Altschuler.
I'm Scott Bennett. We've known each other for almost 50 years.
We grew up together on the playground.
And now we're in the foreground and still growing up.
From the playground to the foreground.
Join the conversation. Episode 17 on the playground. What's up, Jon?
Nothing.
Well, it's been a few weeks. I think you had a major life event. We'll get to that in a moment.
Right.
But I just have to say, for all of our loyal fans, how proud I am of you for challenging status quo, running for school board. I know, the goal is obviously to win and make change, but I think you made change by not necessarily winning, by really doing an incredible campaign.
Thank you.
And so many of our mutual friends have reflected to me. I've bumped into people. While a lot of people couldn't vote because they don't live in your beloved zip code.
Mm-hmm.
They were paying attention, and a lot of proud friends. So just awesome and thrilled that you put your hat in the ring for the right reasons. And I think your area will be better as a result of it.
I appreciate it. It was fun. We liked it.
Yeah. You had a life event last weekend, right?
Yeah. Evelyn graduated from Tufts.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I saw that you posted, because, I keep up with you mostly on social media. I didn't want to bother you over the weekend, but you posted a reflection about the passage of the 4 years versus the culmination of the graduation, right? Like all of the events, right?
Right.
And I thought that was really profound, that we're really celebrating all the things that happened over that 4 years in that day.
Well, I mean, what I said to many people, parents who I was next to at different events, was, hey, are we here celebrating the passage of time or achievement? Like, let's be honest. Because like when you and I graduated from Pierce High School, like what was the achievement?
Right.
To me, it was expected to graduate from Pierce High School.
Yeah.
That wasn't hard.
No, and I think for others it is. But I think look, everybody in that moment, a lot of people are having high school graduations. We've been to quite a few graduation parties in this cycle for high school. And I think you just want to take stock at those moments, right? So for the graduate, it might mean something different from the parents, right? That's the thing. I mean, I know what Evelyn's going on to do, right? Teach for America. Right. So nonetheless, really good. And I also saw that Mark got a special award that you said if he could have stripes.
Three stripes
for being a good son. And I understand that as a little brother.
Really.
Yeah.
It was a grind.
Yeah, a lot of family events. And you played some golf with family. I saw that.
Donald Ross course.
Yeah, beautiful course.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah, we got to get on play. My putter's working, by the way. Had 2 back-to-back really low rounds last week and the week before.
Are you putting all the putts out?
Yeah. In fact, I'm so confident to putt them out, which is like, I was like looking for people to give them to me before. And now this putter it's all in your head. I also wanted to tell you, and we're going to get to show and tell in a minute, but we are entering the summer in Texas, and just curious if you have any travel plans. I know we met a couple weeks ago, and what do you have planned for travel?
I'm going to La Jolla tomorrow for 3 nights with Evelyn, and then we return and spend a night in Dallas, and then go to Prague and Vienna.
Yeah,
whole family.
So you mentioned that. What are you most excited about on your trip?
I just like going to different places.
Yeah,
I mean, I just enjoy being away.
And you didn't ask, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. We are going.
Where are you going?
I'm glad you asked, Jon. Thank you. We have a family trip scheduled in late July. I think I haven't really looked at the calendar, but I know we have it planned to San Diego. It's gonna be interesting because my older daughter has a boyfriend, so this is the first time we're a 5, not a 4. This character is coming. I like him. He's not a character, Jonathan. But it's going to be a unique experience to have a daughter with a boyfriend. Like, that's a change in our family structure. So excited for that family trip and have some miscellaneous travel, celebrating a 90th birthday for a relative.
Wow.
But no Europe trip. We just did Europe, so we're none of that. But summer is a fun time. I'm looking forward to it. Weather's changing. Lots of golf, I hope.
Stan has been in and out of the hospital since the last podcast.
Well, you told me. Has he been back since you told us again?
I don't know. Did I tell you?
You told me before? No. We visited, so I should have asked. I'm sorry I didn't ask about that. He dehydrated. It sounds like, but you mentioned it. But then he's been okay.
Fun, yeah.
They were with you this past weekend.
No. They said, hey, given your situation,
right,
you've lost your travel card with us.
Yeah, you're not. We can't handle this. Right.
We're not going to
slow us down. He's going to slow you down.
You can't stay hydrated. You can't stay nourished. Right. You can't be with me.
Right. Understand. Those are hard and fast rules for you.
Pretty much.
Well, since we're talking about travel and what you're going to do, it leads us to show and tell. And as I try to get creative with this, and last night I was in a work event, a sushi tasting at Uchi Co., which they're great operators from Austin. Uchi was the mothership, and they've got some extensions.
Sounds expensive.
Yeah, it's not inexpensive, but it was a wonderful event. The sushi didn't stop flowing. We've never really talked about it. So I brought a little something here. We've talked about cuisine very
Day old
rarely.
sushi?
Well, no, it's not day old sushi, John. It's fresh, still cold.
Disgusting.
But I brought some
Is that
chopsticks.
from Easties?
No, it doesn't matter where it's from. Let's not focus on that. It's for effect here on our podcast. But I brought some sushi. Why did I bring it, John? Because we talk about sports. We talk about education. We've talked about art with Charlie. We've talked about Bitcoin. We really haven't spent much time talking about food, John. And I know you have a lot of opinions about things. And sushi, for me, when I woke up from my transplant, there were some rules about drinking and what I could and couldn't do. And my family was like good with it because we had been through this with my dad, also having a heart transplant, knowing that there's some clear things. But one of them is no raw fish. And when I was asleep for the 2 weeks, not knowing I was having this transplant, my family, not only did they think I was going to be alive, but in the event that I got this transplant, when they learned that I did, there's so much prep work, and the no sushi thing, my family said I was going to go crazy. So I love sushi. Just curious, you've never talked about it with me. Not once we've ever discussed it.
Why would I talk about sushi?
I don't know. Do you like
Have we
it?
talked about pizza?
We've talked about hamburgers.
We haven't talked about pizza.
We haven't, but we're going to talk about sushi today. We might talk about pizza. We just don't talk about food that
Let's
much.
talk about sushi with Tan Nguyen of Oichi.
You want to have that? Okay.
Sure.
That's who you want to have on? Good.
Sure.
It's funny that you mentioned that, but do you generally like sushi?
I do like sushi.
You eat everything? Are you
I
open?
don't really care for rice wrapped sushi, and I'm definitely not going to eat that sushi because I don't know where it's been.
Right,
It's not
right.
refrigerated.
Right.
It's not cold.
My medical team, in case anybody's watching, would not be thrilled. I don't eat grocery store sushi. I'm really not supposed to eat sushi.
I'll
but,
tackle you if you try to open that.
well, our guests might be interested, or some.
Nobody wants that.
Yeah,
Nobody here wants that.
I don't know. Central Market they seem to be doing pretty good with it, but it was really for the effect so that we could discuss it. Do you use chopsticks?
Yes.
You do. You're good
Of
with
course.
them? Good
Excellent.
dexterity?
I'm excellent with them.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna have sushi, I think, too. We're gonna put that on our list,
All right.
and we'll have somebody here to talk about sushi. I think that's a good idea, and it's fun. Before we get into talking about today's guest, which I'm excited about, it's a sport that we're gonna tease the sport that not really played a lot of. Oddly, I have some skills there. I know you don't believe it.
I don't think you cover much court. You're not very long.
Not long, but I'm scrappy. So
I like scrappy
could
helps
dig.
in volleyball.
Well, I could dig.
Maybe.
We're teasing volleyball, but I did see this morning, since you mentioned it, and it's funny. Just as I was leaving, they had Kristen Davis. She's an actress. She was on Sex and the City. You probably didn't watch that.
No.
I'm guessing not. I did, but she was being interviewed, and she has a podcast because who doesn't?
Everybody does.
Right, everybody does. Not as good as ours, but she was talking about who her guest was, she's like really excited about the guest of her. So we got to start putting that out in the universe when we're talking. She was thrilled because Megan Thee Stallion was her most coveted guest, and she agreed to do it. So I think if we start talking about it, we never know who's going to see this. So, I mean, Oishi's great. We're going to have for sure. But I think as we think about this guest we didn't put out, and you might tease who our guest is because it's somebody you've invited.
Right. She's the illustrious and tremendous talent at SMU, our volleyball coach.
They have a good volleyball team, don't they?
An incredible one.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to talk to Sam, and I think our audience is going to enjoy that. So we're going to get volleyball. We might talk to her about sushi. I'm sure she has some thoughts. I wonder if that's part of the diet. But nonetheless, really excited to have her today. And I know we're going to learn a lot about not just SMU and the greatness of the education, but more importantly, what's happening in athletics, college athletics, and, all about her. So would you like to be our guest?
Or is there someone you would like to see on the show?
DM us through social at Playground Foreground.
We look forward to hearing from you. Coach Sam Erger, welcome to the playground.
Well, thanks for having me.
Hi, Sam. Nice
Hi.
to know you. I was excited. John has been busy, so sometimes when we were planning for guests, and we're getting better at that, we have a calendar full of June. So, I'm excited because I want to learn about you. I read a little about you in your bio and did a little research online. Thank God we have that today. So I'm fascinated how you've gotten to where you are. But just for our audience that doesn't know you, just 90 seconds on who you are, like where you're from, whatever you want to tell us and our audience.
I'm not a native Texan, but I've been here for maybe 15 years. My husband is. He's from McKinney. I grew up playing volleyball, so that's how I got in the sport. It's pretty much all I've known. My dad was my coach. I'm from a small town in Michigan. My parents were both teachers in education, so I've followed your guys' podcast a little bit, and I know that there's a little bit of passion there. And my dad's a superintendent now, and my mom is a retired teacher, but was in special education and in women's health. So just lots of passion for me there as well. And then he coached my high school team, and I went on to play in college, and then I was in coaching just pretty much ever since. So in my coaching career, I went from being a graduate assistant to a director of operations, which is basically a secretary.
Right.
And then went to and that was at the Division II level. And then I was a junior college head coach, which is the really bottom of the rung, but still great volleyball, but it's lower level. And then went from there to Baylor University. And from there, working my way up at Baylor to SMU. So now I'm entering my 4th season as the head coach at SMU. Hopefully, maybe 90 seconds.
Yeah. So you're from Michigan. Where? Northern Michigan?
No, not Northern Michigan. That would be...
Right.
Yeah.
I know it's the dream. So where?
That's very, very rare to be from the Upper Peninsula. But no, I'm from the Thumb area. So if you're from Michigan, you do one of these deals. But it's called North Branch. It's a very small town, but it'd be close to Flint or Lapeer, 2 hours north of Detroit would be a great way to explain it.
Are you a Texan?
I would say I'm a Texan now. I mean, my kids are all Texans, and I love Texas. I love the spirit that Texas has, and I think my spirit matches the spirit of Texas. So in that way, yes.
And when you showed up in Waco, Texas, how different was that for you? I mean, obviously that's been a big part of how you got to Dallas, I'm guessing, or became a known.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Baylor is a known university here and really well established. I didn't know that actually when I moved to Texas.
You weren't very familiar.
I was not super familiar.
Yeah.
So I was the junior college head coach, and I did really well there. And Baylor kind of headhunted me out of that role. And at first I said no multiple times. I turned that role down, and I had some good friends, thank God, that were like, you need to take that job.
Yeah.
So I called them back and I said, okay, I'll take it. And they were like, you need to go. This is a great university. I just didn't really know much about it. And I hadn't put much thought into it because I was a head coach at this junior college, and Baylor wanted me to come be a secretary basically and not coach anymore, that's not my passion. So I was saying no. But yeah, Waco is pretty different than Dallas.
For sure.
When have you not done really well?
I've definitely had challenges, but I would say I've been blessed to be around and mentored by a lot of winners. And I think that saying that like winners win, it's true. And I've been blessed to work under a lot of people that have really good blueprints for what they do. And so some of that's just, I think, luck. My dad was a great coach and had a lot of successful rhythms in the way that he does things. And my boss at Baylor won 7 or 8 national championships in his time as a head coach. So working under him and training and mentoring under him, a lot of what I do mimics a lot of what he did. So how lucky am I, right, that I got to work under these people that were so successful. And I do think winners win, right? My high school team was very successful. We played in state championships. So I've just been very lucky to be in these winning cultures where it's almost like that's all I know.
Was SMU, when you arrived here, were they considered a winning program?
I will say Lisa Seifert, she was the only coach, which is so wild. She'd been there.
I think
that just like doesn't happen. She'd been there she started the program. A woman starting a program, just, I understand how much you have to go through to get resources and build and things like that. So for 20 some odd years, maybe 27. And she had starting from nothing to take them to, I think, the NCAA tournament twice. And then maybe the highlight of her career, at least on paper, was beating A&M, I think, in the second round. And that's a pretty good win for a mid-major at the time. But nationally recognized, like top 25 or coaches poll recognition or RPI recognition or national seeding, no, they had not had that happen before.
For somebody that doesn't know anything about volleyball, because there will be some people that do not, I would say the last 3 or 4 years, at least from my perspective, because I pay attention to sports, there's been a lot of women's sports in general, okay, is just on the rise, right? We see what's happening with the Wings here. Like you can't get tickets to the game.
I love it.
So expensive.
I love it so much.
Obviously, Caitlin Clark.
Yes.
But the volleyball game in Nebraska.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, look, stop. Explain scoring in volleyball. When you score?
You want me to explain it?
Yeah.
You're
the one following. Tell us you're following the game. So tell us how scoring works.
So when you're serving is when you score.
All right.
Right?
That
used
is
to be the way it
correct.
was.
Right.
It's correct. It's just not wholly correct.
Because you can score
You score every
point.
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 Mhm.
Right.
So you do score when you serve. You also score when you receive.
Right.
Mhm.
So I do understand it.
Well,
but
hopefully.
he's looking at me like I did because we're going to get, I don't want to bore our listeners with the mechanics of volleyball. I think you're more interesting than that. But John wants to.
I think you said that you score when you serve and you score at every point.
You didn't let me finish my thought.
There's a
We
point
sat here and listened to
scored
you.
every time,
Right.
which makes it so fun to watch and entertaining.
It's like tennis.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Because both sides have an opportunity, right? But that's why
Right.
blocking and for our audience and for you, Sam, I'm fascinated by the game.
Yeah.
I like watching. I watch.
But doesn't know how scoring works.
John, my daughter played volleyball, my younger daughter, and she was good.
Nice.
She was a libero.
Oh, great.
So I do know what that is, and I understand. Now we could get into substitution. That's a little complicated. Sometimes
Yeah.
I like watching, and there are some mechanics to that, right?
Mhm.
But without the strategy, just in general with the sport, like you've been involved with it your whole life,
Mhm.
but you would agree, right? Like we are in this really interesting time, and of course,
Mhm.
college sports in general as a whole, men's and women's, with the money in it.
Mhm.
I would say there is more interest in this sport than there has ever been
Yeah.
at any point, right?
I would agree 100%. Volleyball is definitely in it's not really, the early adoption phase has already happened. Like we're in ACC and Big 12 country down
Right.
here, but Big 10 country really leads the way in volleyball. I mean, those, they've been pumping money in. Those matches are sold out. They're
What do they get for fans at that, like at a match?
they're averaging 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000. They're selling out their arenas. They're moving into their basketball arenas.
Right.
They're part of the TV contract money. I mean, it's
So 90,000 fans. I mean, I know.
yeah. Nebraska did a volleyball game on their football field and set a world record at over 90,000. And then they came and played us, and we swept them here. And we had
You had to make sure that had to make
I
sure
had to say it.
had to make sure we can do
I have
that.
to say it. Obviously, they're just an incredible program. We had 6,700 fans at that match, but it is not early adoption for volleyball by any means. Now, some fans might just now be realizing this, but there are areas of the country where volleyball is well established. Dallas being one of them, especially in the juniors circuit, high school and club. We're actually the epicenter for high school club volleyball in the country is Dallas, Texas.
I did not know that. I knew it was very popular because I think about
Yeah.
soccer, but as I mentioned, my daughter playing it. Like I watched it at the high school level. I don't think since John and I were there did I spend much time in a gym seeing it.
Yeah, and let me throw 2 facts at you that are just incredible. There are more girls playing volleyball in Texas than boys playing football in Florida and Ohio combined. And there are 4 of the top 5 volleyball clubs in the nation are in Dallas. Like that's just in Dallas, not even in Texas,
So
right?
it makes it
One
easy
more
for
thing
you to
about
recruit.
Florida.
Oh yeah.
Florida's electoral votes have tripled since 1960.
Wow. See, these are some of these crazy facts that he's good for.
That's right. I'm sure to add value.
You are adding so much
I
value.
don't know. I mean, we're going there, and we have to get that in. But I guess that's a
I
problem.
was in Boston. I went to the
And
JFK
is
Museum.
the
I
trend,
saw you
is
were
that
there.
trend continuing?
I would think so. Yeah.
And what's the Texas trend?
We had
Do we
24, now we have
continue
40.
to add electoral votes
Yeah,
as
but
well?
not at the same pace, not at the same rate they are.
Okay.
Arizona's also tripled.
Well, you're getting a lot of movement. You're
Interesting.
getting a lot of.
I know, but like the electoral college, it tells
Wait,
you
is
the
anybody
numbers.
losing? Can you even lose electoral
Yeah,
votes?
New York's lost
Interesting.
votes. Yeah,
I-
Michigan's lost votes.
Yeah. See, I'm from Michigan.
Yeah.
Can we?
You're here.
Can I ask you a question?
do
And
love Michigan.
I'm interested. Well, one, you talk about Dallas being a hotbed, so obviously that's a real advantage for you from a recruiting standpoint.
Right.
And we're living in this age of NIL, and we've talked about it. I'm not a huge fan personally, just as a. I mean, I went to the University of Texas. John and I have talked about that.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that, and I can understand that.
But so I don't know if it's sustainable. We don't have to. But I'm just curious, like from 4 years ago, just in this kind of timeline, is it a completely different thing to be able to, like what you were seeing at Baylor, and now you're here at SMU, and you've got this, you've got a new university president,
Mm-hmm.
right, who's deeply committed to athletics. I
Yeah.
know that. At a great university.
Right.
Are you surprised, or is it just awesome, like the resources that you have to go out and compete? Pound for
Yeah.
pound.
Well, there's a lot happening in what you just said. So, Yes, I'm super excited about our new president, Jay Hartzell. Just what an amazing hire, and I think speaks to how attractive SMU can be and what people maybe see with the future of just not only college athletics, but just universities in general. Like SMU is on the rise, and many would say we're just ascending back to maybe where we were before, right? Like if you've really followed SMU for a long time, I'm
We had a
young, but
$75 million endowment when we were where we were before,
right, but
which not much.
there's a lot of people, people look at me, I'm younger, and say, honey, you don't know, back in our day we were in the Southwest Conference, we were
They're wrong.
okay. I appreciate that
It was
point
pretty
of
well,
view.
but it was pretty well, from my perspective, it was a very well respected place and time.
Okay.
I think it's hard to compare the two.
Okay.
I mean, I think it was a celebrated, like it was a celebrated university. You had some people that were
We had good football.
Yeah.
That's it.
but I don't think I
So
don't
you think our academics are also
Everything's more elite now. Far more.
Okay.
It's becoming far more.
100% that is true, but I don't think women's sports in general during that time was even a celebrated thing in my youth. It really wasn't.
well, and that's across the board.
100%.
That's across the board. So we've just achieved R1 status, which is a huge accomplishment. But yeah, not just athletics alone. Athletics is really, you could view that almost as the marketing branch of any university, in my opinion. Like I think it's a worthy investment because it truly can be viewed as like your marketing budget. I think it's a great way to look at it.
Totally.
Right? Like
No, it is.
how much does a company put into a marketing budget? I'm just curious.
Depends how big they are, but it'd be millions of dollars.
Right, like
10,
percentage-wise,
15%.
10, 15,
Yeah,
20%.
It's you. I think you're looking at it correctly.
Right, okay.
that's how-
See what
I
I'm
think
saying?
Jay Hartzell would tell you that.
So if
too.
anybody has an issue with investment into sports, that's what I would say is it's a great, because we're up 40% year over year, 40% on our applications, and we made the CFP. You know, Volleyballs crushing it. I hope we're a part of that, but I mean the CFP certainly helps. We have a new AD. You know, obviously he's amazing too, and I'm very excited about Damon coming from Maryland and
Yep.
Big Ten and SEC experience, wanting to come to SMU. So that's a big deal. But yeah, unpacking NIL, and that's kind of what I think the heart of what you were asking me. It's certainly, I'm going to use the word disruptive. And you asked me 4 years ago, and is it different now? I'm going to use the word disruptive. And whether that's positive or negative is going to be always someone's opinion. I can't remember now, I'm going to give away my age, but I played in a different time and I enjoyed playing at that time. I loved my experience, and there were some issues with what was going on then with resourcing, and I think you've got to understand the March Madness tournament brings in over $1 billion. So I think it's appropriate that the players making that tournament happen have some stake in that. That's just my take on it. So the way that happens, there's been some major disruption. Now, to your question and how it pertains to me in volleyball, this is a major bone I have to pick, and it's been tough for me personally. My team, you know, mostly when you're talking NIL, you're talking about probably football and basketball, and it's about to change into rev share. You've got to be clear with your terms, NIL and rev share, because they're two different things. My team has had a pretty rapid ascension, and that's been awesome. I've got an amazing staff, and I've had a ton of support, but we actually have not been paying players, and I think that's a big misconception. A lot of people have wondered. I commonly get asked, how have you guys found success? Dallas is a great place to recruit. We have an amazing university. Academics are awesome. There's a lot of good things that can help us be successful, but we have not paid players up to this point. So last year's team that beat number 1 Pitt, that beat number 2 Nebraska, not a single player on that team is getting paid.
Wow.
Right. And that's a huge misconception. So we've been resourced really well, but not in that way. Now, will we have that in the future? Yes. And I'm super excited about that. I think that's an amazing thing. Do I think it's sustainable to the tune of college quarterbacks making more than the pros? Probably not. And I think the market will probably work its way out.
My big question for you is, what's the trajectory post collegiate volleyball? I've actually spoken to one of your former players I mentioned, And what I was most impressed about actually had nothing to do with volleyball. She comes from, her father was a NFL professional athlete.
Yeah.
She had received 3 degrees from SMU. I was blown away by that.
Yeah.
Like my conversation with her was about NIL. She's sort of I asked her why she wasn't teaching others. That's what we really talked about. But Jon had introduced me to her, and so before ever meeting you, I was really interested in the program. So now knowing you, I'm for sure I'm going to be at some games with Jon.
Yeah. Please come on.
I like the sport. Jon will have to be telling me what's happening. Obviously, he'll be helping. We'll be scoring on the side. But I'm just curious, what's the trajectory like for most of these athletes are going to get degrees, right? Hopefully, they're going to stay.
Yeah.
Where do they go after that with volleyball? Do they go be coaches?
I'm going to answer that, and then I am going to want to kick it back and understand what you guys don't like about NIL, because I totally would agree with some of the sentimental downsides to it and losing the pride factor and a lot of the things that you probably don't like about it, and I want to understand how to fix it. Okay, the trajectory. There's been 3 pro leagues that have started for volleyball in the last handful of years. 2 of them that are really doing well and taking off. There's League One Volleyball. And then there's the PVF. And so we've had 5 players be drafted and signed.
That's awesome.
It's so cool. And one of our players just crushing it, like rookie of the year type deal.
Wow.
And making in 6 months of work, 5.5, 6 months of work, anywhere from $60,000 to $80,000, not counting any kind of endorsements or stuff that they can go do on their own, right? And that's just the bottom threshold, right? You can obviously go make more than that. So I think that that's amazing. That's awesome. That's stuff that women's athletes could have only ever dreamed of. I would have loved to do that. That is what you would have seen me doing.
What about the rest of them? Like, do they go on? I mean, do you see your players just going out into the business world and
Yeah, like the player. Yeah. So I'm so proud of the players that we have and that we recruit, because SMU is a very high academic institution, and I think just generally speaking, we're really trying to recruit just high achievers. So you've got players like the one that you met. Right. I think you're talking about Alex Glover, that are just I'm going to say that they're badasses, right? Like they are just crushing it. They're getting degrees. They are making their way. She was really the true spirit of NIL. She was wheeling and dealing on her own.
Yeah.
And she had like 40 some odd deals that she went and got on her own, which is what the whole law was supposed to be about. But we've got girls that are doing, all facets of the workforce, diving in and doing really well. So I think that volleyball players are beautiful. They're marketable. They're athletic. Come to a game and you'll be blown away. Like, you've not seen a more just like truly impressive group of girls. He comes to our practices. Come out. Yeah. You'll want to hire him.
No, I my experience with Alex, and I really appreciate the introduction. Jon, Jon, I know cares about a lot of SMU sports.
Sam goes to the pre-events.
Yeah. I don't know if maybe we just hadn't talked to each other, but
they're impressive.
Really quickly, because I want to add, before we go to break, just you answered my NIL thing. What you said is exactly it. So I have nothing more to say. Just the pride factor and sort of, I went to UT. We can outbuy anybody.
Yeah.
And I don't really love that. I don't go, great, we can buy, because especially in basketball.
So what do you win?
Yeah,
what do y'all win? Yeah. You can outbuy anybody. What do y'all win?
We win a lot of things.
What?
Look at the championships before Jay left.
Look at the championships since you have NIL. What have you won?
We've won a lot of championships.
Since NIL?
I think Jon makes a fair point. Money doesn't always equate to success.
No, I agree.
Why don't you answer the question? What have you won since NIL?
I don't know the number, but when he
the number's 0
in all sports.
And the ones where you use NIL?
Not correct. Not true.
Totally true. Are you paying the equestrian team?
No, I don't know. I don't know what we're paying, to be honest. I don't have the answer to that, but I know that
paying men's football and men's basketball.
NIL era, Texas has been, but outside of the NIL era, I just don't like, because I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of that. This is a personal, many of my friends who watch sports feel that there is that missing pride factor. I don't love it that every year when I watch the basketball team, I don't know the players. I like to want to know their stories, where they came from, see them grow and mature into, I love the 4-year players. It's probably old man syndrome for me, but that is just, and so there is change. And I agree with what you said. If the coaches can leave, if you can leave, okay, you recruited these girls, and if you leave, these women, young women, and if you leave, then they should be able to leave. I would change the rule this way. If the coach who's recruited me and sat in my living room or sat with me or had me come to volleyball leaves, then the player can leave. If not, then the player has one option the entire time. I think that would, I don't have so much.
They have one right now. That's what they have right now.
No, they leave.
They're free.
They can leave. No,
They have one free transfer. Correct.
There's been some.
They don't have 2 and 3
with COVID and some other things.
It depends.
From today.
There's a lot. It depends. Right now, it's almost unlimited. SEC has where you can't interconference.
No.
You do have to sit out. There's different. Honestly, it's hard to keep track because the rules change
with
so much.
And with the graduate players, right?
Yes, there's graduate options. It's hard to keep track because the rules change so much. What I will say is I think that nothing is black and white, and neither system, like a full-fledged Wild West that we've been in, is not the answer. But $1 billion with players having no stake is also wrong. And we've got to find a way to fix that.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. I think we're in the same place.
Yeah.
I actually don't, but what I said is I think it's great that the players, because I think to your point that it brings a lot of value to the university. These are, in many cases, the mascot is great, but some of these people are bigger mascots than the mascot, right?
Right.
Like some of these, like Caitlin Clark is bigger than the mascot of her school at this point, right? So like, I think that's awesome and excited, but I do think there's a happy medium somewhere, and you got to go to one end to sort of, I think college athletics is going to do that, and
it's happening. Legislation is happening, and we need good administrators and good coaches that want to create environments that players want to stay.
Yeah.
Right. And there needs to be some parameters so that bad actors can't take advantage and things like that. And I think that those are getting put in place, or at least I have every hope that that's happening. So I think that people that want to get back to the spirit of college athletics, I think we all want to get back to that. We don't want to lose that. It's like the gem, right? It's such a gem. So I hope that we're headed back to that.
I just would. I'm asking you, Jon, because we've talked about it. I'm glad you're here to shed some light on it. I come from a university with the second largest endowment, and you would think, oh, great.
Right.
But I feel.
Wait, what's the endowment at UT?
I know.
It was when he left. It was over $5 billion.
Right. Harvard's
ours is like $3 billion.
Stanford?
Ours is like $3 billion. You're not the second largest endowment. You're not.
Harvard is the largest.
They're like probably 50 or 60 billion, I'd guess.
Texas was the second largest endowment.
No.
You sure?
I mean, I'm not sure, but I know you're wrong.
Check it. Okay. But
we should fact check that. I'm curious.
Well, we could fact check it. And we
could fact check. I cannot wait to fact check.
I know. I know they were. They may not be today, but they were. But nonetheless, I would just say my point was, you would be celebrating that. You would see a guy like, oh, great, we're winning.
Right.
But the pure nature of the game still exists with me, so I'm not that excited. Like,
but what are you all winning? You're not winning.
Well, we're winning a lot of recruiting battles.
Well, the people at the
we're buying a lot of players.
The teams at the
buying
top,
a lot of great groceries.
The teams at the top should really care about the health of the overall system, or like, does it even matter if you just cannibalize the whole thing?
Totally agree.
Right. So the health of the overall system and Cinderella stories. Yeah. So this year for the March Madness, I think was the first year where there really was none of that.
Yeah, it was all chalk.
Right. And so that is a problem. People will lose interest.
What does all chalk mean?
It means the number one seeds.
Yep.
From every bracket matriculate all the way through to play.
You didn't see any mid-majors.
No mid-majors, and I thought that was
problem.
That was my thing, is that I thought the Creightons and the Butlers of the world, who have kept players for 4 years, which is the argument I'm making, usually they've done great. This is the first year
one season.
I know.
Right, and it's already happening. So every top team.
No. This happens. It happens every once in a while. It's not a big deal.
No. I agree with Jon on this, actually. That's why I was like, okay.
Basketball, you got to win 6 games to get all
100%.
Yeah,
at the end, you have to be healthy at the end of the season and win 6 games. Plus, if you want to have to play in a conference tournament.
I think that you could see this year the effect. In my opinion, I think you could see this year uniquely in the men's tournament the effect of NIL. Every top team
100%.
had
Houston
had one of the mid-major top players from the previous year that a decade ago they would have still been on their previous team.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, it was all chalk. So yes, Cinderella stories are rare, which is what makes them so special. But we want to protect that, right? We want that to keep happening.
100%.
What does chalk mean?
Like you can
you don't
take this seeding.
Never heard the term chalk.
You can take the seeding and just bet the exact seeding.
Yes, that's the term. But see how we both knew it? And you are you upset?
You can't even define it. I've asked you 3 times to define it. Coach Erger had to define it.
You knew what sushi was.
To learn more about today's guest, head SMU volleyball coach Sam Erger, check out her Instagram page @Sam_Erger. And to learn more about the SMU volleyball team, Check out smumustangs.com.
Coach Erger, welcome back to the playground. This is the segment Scott loves where we pull topics out of hats.
Okay, but before we get there, John, our
What?
fact checkers have suggested that they're what we did determine that Texas
You said their endowment was $5 billion, the second largest in the country, and I said that's completely wrong.
Well, we have
That's
good
just
fact
wrong.
checking. I just know, but we have good fact
I'm
checking.
going to play Judge Judy here and say that you were wrong, but you were also wrong, right? You said $5 billion. It was
coach.
way more than that.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you, Coach.
I'm used to being reprimanded by the coach. Okay, here we go. Topics from the hat.
Wilson.
Wilson. Right.
Wilson.
John, do you know who Wilson is?
I just know I don't like the sports balls, Wilson. The
Wilson.
brand's terrible.
I knew you wouldn't know who Wilson is. You don't know who Wilson is.
I think it has to do with that movie I didn't like.
Yes, I can't
Didn't
think
like
of the name of the
Not
movie,
really.
but Tom
Castaway.
Hanks. Tom Hanks?
Not Castaway.
Tom Hanks?
It is Castaway.
No, it's not.
I think it is
100%.
Castaway.
John?
But it is Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks.
And it is Wilson. You
Yes.
can't, you have to say it like that.
And yes, you have to say Wilson.
You have
and
to cry.
He has a profound relationship. I'm going to send you a
With
clip
the
from this.
volleyball.
The
I'm
volleyball.
not going to watch it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I mean, that's the most famous volleyball
Yeah.
ever, right?
And it probably is. And yeah, it truly is a sentimental moment in the movie when he loses the ball.
I'm going to send you this clip. I show it to everybody. It's one of my things in my, like,
Right.
I'm going to send it to you and John. They're in the 3 minutes and then we can move on. In the 3 minutes of that scene of this clip, you're going to see what is happening for this guy, like all the things.
Yeah, it's
Because he's
sentimental.
isolated.
Mhm.
There's loss. There's a choice. There's so many things.
Yes.
Just watch it.
It's
You will
good.
love it. And to our audience, they should watch it.
Okay,
Great.
let's move along.
Cinema.
John's
Okay.
going to cry about Wilson.
Mental toughness and mental health. What's the question? What are my thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mental toughness. I think that it is a great thing to try to raise your children. I'm trying to raise my kids to be mentally tough. I want my players to be mentally tough. Mental health is very important. I also don't think you should ruminate over problems. Like rumination is a bad thing, right? Like you don't want to. The more you talk about things, sometimes it can almost make it worse. But an appropriate place and person is very important, and people's feelings need to be validated and they're real.
What about you?
So there's a fine line.
I agree with what she said. I feel like our society's gone way too extreme on mental health. Like, I think it's very important, but I think you can talk yourself into all sorts of trouble. And I think we're focused on mental health at the expense of also considering mental toughness. It's like if you have a mental health kind of, if you're in that space in a moment talking with kids or whoever, and you suggest we also might consider coming at this from a mental toughness angle, that really gets pushed back currently. And I think we're getting pretty soft.
My immediate reaction is mental health leads to mental toughness. That's my thought about that. Like if you have positive mental health, you will be mentally tough because you're able to handle more.
I think it's easier to act your way into a new way of thinking than it is to think your way into a new way of acting. And what you're suggesting is that you're thinking your way into a new way of acting. And I think that doesn't work.
Yeah, I don't know.
Wait, I think it works to act your way into a new way of thinking.
Well, that's your take on it. Mine is
That's Methodism.
yeah.
I'm not a mental health expert, so I'll say that. But I do work with kids all the time, and I've seen really, really healthy kids. And they usually have something, like my healthiest kids have something in common. They don't think about themselves a lot. They think about others. So the healthiest kids I've ever coached that have the most self-confidence, that have the most success, they give the most. They're the best givers. They're the best servant leaders, right? They don't ruminate. They don't think about themselves. So there's that. That doesn't mean they don't need to be poured into. They do need to be poured into. You can't give if you're not being poured into. So that's really important. Probably in line with what you just said.
Yeah, I would just say, and I mentioned this, my career is in insurance.
Mhm.
And I can just tell you, statistics aside, the employer, so we're talking about kids here, but we have for the first time in history, we have 4 generations in the workforce,
Right.
which is a huge trend for our company. And the sort of the cream of the crop, the employers of choice, best employers are investing heavily in mental health. They're choosing that,
Yes.
and because their workforces are demanding that. So whether or not
Yeah.
mental health, mental toughness, I can just tell you where we are as a country,
Yeah.
and with our healthcare system. And so I when I work with clients, it's always a topic. And so,
And I absolutely think we should invest in mental health, but I think the answer in that investment might not be so inward looking. At times, some of the best work you can do with people that are hurting or struggling is get them out and helping others, or just taking a walk with a kid, or right, like, helping them practice perspective and things like that. And that might be some of the toughness. But again, this is such a broad topic, and there's kids that really need help with serious things, and so I don't want to minimize that. But being tough and having grit is directly linked to success. Like, having grit and being successful, directly linked.
I totally agree. I would just tell you, Sam, since it's your first time here, and my mental toughness journey is this podcast, working with Jon. So I'm getting better each episode, because he's really putting it to test.
It's a hot button topic, and a good one that could be a whole podcast on of its own.
Can I pull the last one?
There's 2 more, right?
I know, but I'm gonna pull one of the 2.
Sure.
I'm nervous. Oh, Kim Mulkey, right?
Not from our high school.
No, I know.
I worked with Kim Mulkey for...
Who is Kim Mulkey, for those people that don't know?
Okay,
A lot of people-
well, that's you're living under a rock then.
I know who she is. But...
She is an incredibly successful basketball coach. Right now at LSU, she was at Baylor. I don't even know how many national championships under her belt right now, but in the Hall of Fame. And there's a reason she's so successful. She is incredibly smart, just talented, ingenuitive. Like, she's just she's a go-getter. And I have a lot of respect for the success that she's achieved. She is not everybody's cup of tea, but, I think when you're successful, that happens a lot. Like, usually when people achieve at a high rate, like, if you want everybody to like you, I think there's a famous quote from Nick Saban, like, go sell ice cream, right? Like, not everyone's going to like you. So again, back to like Lisa Seifert, who we talked about earlier, I have a lot of empathy for women that have coached, because I just understand the struggles that they've gone through.
Wait, the only person that is universally liked and has been incredibly successful in Dallas is Roger Staubach. And he's won 2 Super Bowls, and he's married to his first wife.
I don't think he's the only person universally liked that's been successful. You mean athletes, or you just...
Just period.
To
your point.
It's just hard.
It is very hard. Jon and I have talked about this,
There's no one else in the city.
Right. But I would just say, like, my experience, I don't know a lot about her, was watching her disposition on the side, like her demeanor, like Popovich. My younger daughter really loves Greg Popovich. She learned about him, and his disposition, could be off-putting to some, but he's an incredible coach, one of the best. And, Krzyzewski, these guys, to your point, there is this drive to do it your way, to have your disposition, not to be universally liked, but to do your principles. And I'm assuming when I come watch your team more closely now, I will see tenets of that we didn't even discuss about your style. I'm excited to watch that. I'll reflect to you.
I think when people, with her disposition, you bring that up, what I think people see in her, they might think she's only a motivator, but because I worked alongside her and I got to know her, she's actually really, really smart. She is an architect behind everything she's built. So I hope people give her the credit for what she's built for that reason too.
I always liked how you explained that when y'all had to share court time, how that went.
I mean, she really did, I think, create some success at Baylor early that they had not had. Right. And so for her to say, I'm going to take what I deserve, I'm not getting in your way, And so there were some people that I think were afraid to ask her for things, and I was not. And so that created a friendship between her and I. Everyone was afraid to talk to her, and I was like, I'll go ask her. And I was just young. And I think in that way, she took me under her wing a little bit. I texted her before on the day of her national championship game, and she texted me back, and she said, I said, hey, good luck. You probably don't remember me. And she said, I remember you. And she just, that day, I thought that was really cool. So I think she's a good person.
Well, Jon.
There's one more.
Oh, we were going to do 4. Okay, here we go.
Women's pay in sports. Whew. Wow, you saved the doozy for the end.
Can we focus on basketball for the moment?
Yeah.
Should the women's professional league players make the same as the men's professional league players?
No, because that league is subsidized by the NBA. They don't turn a profit. They're only afloat, if I understand it correctly. And I will say I'm open to being educated differently because I have a basic knowledge of this. So really with anything I ever say, if I need to be educated differently, then that's fine. But if it's true that they're subsidized fully by the NBA, then no, you should not be making the same millions that the NBA makes. I do take issue with it takes money to make money. And I think that there has been a differing investment in women's sports than men's sports. There are a lot of men's sports. I'm moving off of NBA.
Yeah.
There has been a differing investment there's a lot of teams in college sports in general that are, we've talked about this in the break, in the red. Like there's a ton of football teams and men's teams that are not making money. And then there's women's teams. Nebraska Volleyball is one of the only, if not the only, that are making money. Like Nebraska women's volleyball is turning a profit. That's amazing. Now, I think that proves that it can be done. And if some other administrators would follow suit in the middle of Nebraska, they can go turn a profit. Don't tell me it can't be done in Dallas or in other big markets if it can be done in the middle of Nebraska. But there would need to be some investment. And that is where I take a little bit of issue. Like, it takes money to make money. So if you're going to tell us we can't get paid because we're not making money, well, give us a little bit of the investment.
What's your thought, quickly?
I think I agree with everything she said.
Yeah, I agree. And my one thought that you point out is, I think women's sports is going to get there. So, like today, no. Tomorrow, I think we're on the path towards.
We got to go to see a Wings game.
I'm into it.
That'd be fun.
We got to get tickets. It's not easy. I mean, I just was learning about this. Like, I'm into it.
How do we say the woman's last name? Who's our star? Buchers or Beckers?
Beckers.
Because I've been following her on Instagram since
she's amazing.
Since before she blew out her knee in Connecticut.
She's amazing. I will say about the WNBA, so I don't get blown up for that answer though. I'm super supportive of creative ways to get them out of that arrangement where they're being subsidized. Like,
well, I think it's
you know
coming.
what I mean?
I think you're going to see. You're already seeing it. Like the way they did the drafts.
Right.
They're coming around this. They have a model for how to do this.
Right.
I'm just amazed at like I would rather, the fact that Jon just invited me, we grew up Mavericks fans. We had Rolando on. We love our Mavericks. But right now, I'm pretty captivated by this. Like, I'm interested to go experience that. Not before volleyball, by the way. I expect to see you to the volleyball game, Jon.
Well, because what I told you is there's 3-4 volleyball pro leagues that have started in the last, with hundreds of millions of dollars of seed money for volleyball. With women's basketball has like a significant head start on volleyball. And that's a whole nother conversation itself that's very interesting. But if volleyball leagues can get started with seed money and have their own legs without subsidization from a men's pro league that is, crushing it, why is it that the WNBA, how many years in now? 30 years in?
Yeah, about that. Can't
be on its own 2 feet. And to me, that we've not had the right heads in the room solving that.
Well, they're not. I noticed.
I don't understand.
They're not building arenas.
They shouldn't be playing in the summer. Right. They need to be in a different. There's so many.
There's not, like somebody asked last night, should they build an arena? And we could go down this topic for a while, and I think we probably will, because I think we'll talk to each other. But I think you're posing really great questions. I think that all of us, but we're in this really fun time right now, like in this city, and where you are, what you're doing, and the basketball team. This is a really great window. So it's exciting for women. For two guys that have a podcast, we're pretty excited about it. I mean, I love what's going on with
top 10 podcast.
I have to say this.
We are top 10.
I know we're probably running short on time, but I have to say this. This is like a firm belief I have, regardless of male, female. If you can put together a great, entertaining product, people will show up and come. It does not matter if it's a men's sport, women's sport. It doesn't matter, because you see men's sports like the NBA recently that had been struggling because the product was kind of waning. Now, I think that they've done some creative things to help it kind of get, do well, trading Luka, some little shady stuff there.
Right.
But, you see when products are not good, people don't go. When products are good, people go. If it's entertaining, they go. So whether it's male, female, I don't give a crap about that.
So what's the promise to me and Jon? Because I'm coming now, and I'm gonna make sure you see me there. I'm gonna be asking for autographs to your players. I'm gonna watch your style. I'm gonna comment. I hope Jon has good tickets or not. We know somebody, right? We can make sure that I can.
Oh,
I will come
yes.
to. I know
You
there'll be some.
always got tickets.
Okay. And on my list, besides a Wings game, is I want to watch a volleyball game next to you so that you can educate me. Like, I'm going to tell you.
Wait, during the game, you want to be like on the bench?
No,
on the bench. Next to Diego.
Make a win-
Celebrity
next
guest.
to Diego.
Look at the NCAA
What if next to
rules there.
Diego? Give him a computer.
I might do that. I might do that. But
Assistant data guy.
You love Diego because he's a good golfer, right? Diego, is he pretty good?
He's good.
Who's the best one? My
Clayton
staff
Clayton was
are a bunch
probably-
of
Clayton was
golfers.
probably the best.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Your
staff is golfing and
Now
not
that this
coaching.
is
When are
gonna
they
be
not
public,
coaching
they're-
No,
volleyball?
I'm saying, yeah.
When are they-
Diego was wearing a
Diego's gonna be
black,
so upset by
black
that.
shirt.
Well, it's been awesome to have you.
Thank you so
Jon,
much for having me.
Thank you for inviting a new friend. I always love when you bring a friend that I don't know,
That's right.
which is a lot of people. But Coach, I guess I'm gonna have to do that because now I'm thinking about my mental toughness. So I
Hey,
we-
mental
we're-
health is extremely important. I
We're
hope
not
that is
diminishing it.
very
We're not
important.
diminishing it. We're saying, let's also be really tough.
I'm excited to see your players and just like know this now. But it's been so awesome to have you. Thanks for coming on the playground with us, Jon. Thanks for inviting
Thank you
Coach.
for having
And we're excited to see what happens for you. We're gonna be tracking you. So
Thank you. Thank you for having me.